what Becky Hammon said about the limited time for Chennedy Carter. You see the article here. It's titled, Chennedy Carter waived by Aces before WNBA's guaranteed contract deadline. And it says the Las Vegas Aces waived guard Chennedy Carter and signed free agent guard Justine Pissott, the team announced Tuesday, and you can see it right.
So Chennedy Carter just got waived by the Las Vegas Aces, the reigning dynasty, the team that was supposed to give her the fresh start she needed after Chicago imploded. And Becky Hammon's statement, just made an executive decision there on what I liked and what was working. That's not injury report language. That's not about basketball fit. That's coach speak for this isn't working and we're done.
The Fever has decided not to match an offer from the Las Vegas Aces for developmental player Justine Pissott. You know how the developmental player contracts go. I talked about it again yesterday when I talked about Kate Martin being upgraded, if you will, from a developmental contract with the LA Sparks, to a standard contract. Well, Pissott was on a developmental contract, and she has now signed with the Las Vegas Aces.
But before we get into what just happened in Las Vegas, we need to talk about the move that set all of this in motion. The Indiana Fever just declined to match an offer for Justine Pissott, their developmental player who's now headed to the Aces. And the reaction online, you'd think they just cut Caitlin Clark. People are losing their minds, calling it a massive mistake, saying the Fever don't know what they're doing. But here's what almost nobody's talking about. The Fever's head coach Stephanie White didn't just explain the basketball reasons for keeping Grace Vance-Lewin and Damiris Dantas over Pissott. She used one word 3 separate times in her statement: culture.
White. Chloe wrote, keeping Justine Pissott would have likely meant waiving rookie forward Grace Vance-Lewin or veteran center Damiris Dantas, the 2 players that get the least minutes on the Fever roster. What White said on keeping them: first and foremost, they're great culture players, great culture teammates. They're going to be ready when their number is called. White said of keeping Vance-Lewin and Dantas over giving Pissott a roster spot. Grace is a young player who I think can really develop into a solid 4 in this league. Dee is a veteran who understands how to stay ready so she doesn't have to get ready, who we can play in certain lineups and certain matchups, who are going to give us great minutes in practice as well, and who are going to help continue to elevate and build and pour into our.
Listen to how she frames it. Great culture players, great culture teammates, then at the end, who are going to help continue to elevate and build and pour into our culture. That's not filler language, that's intentional. And if you remember the preseason reporting, the Fever's core players specifically requested that Damiris Dantas come back. The veterans wanted her in that locker room. So when people are screaming about Pissott's potential, they're ignoring what the people who are actually at practice every day clearly value. Chemistry isn't just a buzzword. It's the thing that separates a talented roster from a team that can actually win when it matters.
Picture. Another point is that, like you, I'm not at the Fever practices. So I don't have a clue about Justine Pissott's development or lack thereof. And remember, this is not college, but in college, in Vanderbilt, this ain't college. Okay, and actually someone shared what her stats were even in college, and it's not worth having a conniption for her being released. So yeah, but I'm not going to pretend I know there are people out there who are like, I don't know why, but they're just totally like, oh my goodness, don't you know Pissott is the answer to everything. No, I don't know that. And I'm not going to pretend that I'm at practice.
And here's the part that should bother people more than it does. Almost nobody criticizing this move has been to a single Fever practice. They haven't seen Pissott's development up close. They haven't watched her defend in live drills or run the offense against the starting unit. They saw her college stats at Vanderbilt, and honestly, those numbers weren't exactly lighting the world on fire. But somehow, the narrative became that she's this hidden gem the Fever are foolishly letting walk. The coaching staff sees her every single day. They know what she can do right now, not in some theoretical future. And they made a call. Maybe, just maybe, the people with all the information made a more informed decision than the people with none of it.
Right? So I'm not going to pretend I know that her game is worth keeping. Another point is that, let's be honest, Pissott probably wouldn't get to play much in Indiana. I mean, there's a reason why she didn't make the standard roster. She's probably not going to play much. So if she's not going to play much, brings me to my next point.
There's another angle here that nobody wants to say out loud. Pissott probably wasn't going to play much in Indiana. There's a reason she was on a developmental contract and not the standard roster from day one. The Fever's rotation is set. They know who their core players are. So if she's riding the bench in Indianapolis, getting garbage time minutes at best, what's the integrity move? Keep her locked up so she can't get opportunities elsewhere? Or let her go to a team where she might actually see the floor?
If she can possibly get minutes in Las Vegas, and that remains to be seen, but if she can, integrity to me says better to release her than hold her back. If I can look at our roster and say, she's not likely going to get that opportunity, then I'm going to let her go. Because of course, Indiana had the opportunity to match Vegas's offer. They had 24 hours. So by 5 p.m. Eastern time, they would have had to match that. They chose not to do that. They would have had to match it, meaning she would be on a standard contract. And you know what? Probably wouldn't have been able to get to play much. So I'm like, let her.
Indiana had 24 hours to match Vegas's offer. They would have had to give her a standard contract. And then what? She sits on the bench while the team she wants to contribute to doesn't have room for her, and another franchise that does have room can't bring her in. Pissott herself said in the preseason that her goal was to make a team on a standard contract. If that's not going to happen in Indiana, and it might happen in Vegas, letting her go is the right thing to do. Whether she actually gets minutes with the Aces is a whole different question, because it's still Vegas, and their rotation is even tighter. But at least the door's open.
So whoever's in a Fever jersey, I'm rooting for you, right? I also wish her well. I wish Justine Pissott absolutely well, and I would have wished her well if she stayed with the Fever. Obviously, that's not happening. I wish her well as she goes. But it's not certainly the end of the world. I mean, it's just not the end of the world. Somebody put on X and said, Michael, who's been on the show doing Fever analysis, he was just like, wait a minute. We got Caitlin Clark back, likely playing again starting on Wednesday, tomorrow, and people are crashing out about Justine Pissott. And I'm not trying to be disrespectful.
And look, this isn't about rooting against Pissott. Whoever's wearing a Fever jersey, that's the team to support. But if she's not in that jersey anymore, you can still wish her well without pretending the sky is falling. Someone on social media pointed out the absurdity of the timing. Caitlin Clark is about to return from injury, likely starting tomorrow against the Sparks, and people are melting down over a developmental player who barely cracked the rotation. The priorities are completely backwards. This isn't disrespect to Pissott, it's just reality. The Fever made a calculated decision based on what they see every day, and they prioritize the players their core wants in that locker room.
Well, so let's move on to this interesting piece. Aces waived Chennedy Carter. Now, I don't know all the story. I'm not about to roast Chennedy. We've talked a whole lot about Chennedy Carter. Everybody was saying, bring Chennedy to Indiana. And I'm like, no, because again, that culture that obviously the team and the players are invested in, it matters. And I said, I personally wouldn't have taken a chance on Chennedy Carter first. I wished her well, and I said somebody would, and I'd have to observe that. Now, I did a video on my...
Now let's talk about the Chennedy Carter situation, because this is where it gets messy. The Aces just waived her to make room for Pissott, and the timing is fascinating. It's the West Coast swing for Indiana, which means Pissott's going to be in an Aces uniform when the Fever play Vegas again before heading home. But more importantly, Chennedy Carter is out of the league again, and this time it happened fast. She only played 11 minutes in Vegas's last game against Chicago. No injury listed, no illness mentioned. Becky Hammon said, quote, "Chennedy should be good to go, just made an executive decision there on what I liked and what was working." Translation, she's healthy, but we're not playing her.
Here, the Aces posted, "Thank you, Chennedy." You know that thank you. You know what that means. So the WNBA teams had until 5 p.m. Eastern to waive players on non-guaranteed contracts before their deals became fully guaranteed. Now, Carter only appeared in 11 minutes during Las Vegas's 98-90 win over the Sky on Friday, although Aces head coach Becky Hammon did not reference an injury or sickness either when discussing her limited playtime. Hammon said Chennedy should be good to go. Just made an executive decision there on what I liked and what was working. So obviously they made another executive decision, and that is to let her go.
So what happened? A few weeks ago, Chennedy was on social media saying she felt like she was on a leash. She sat out 5 games, and the team cited sickness. Let's be clear, we should hope she's healthy. But this is the second time in 2 seasons that she's disappeared mid-season with sickness as the explanation. The first time was in Chicago in 2023, and that situation ended with her out of the league entirely until Teresa Weatherspoon vouched for her to Becky Hammon. Weatherspoon, her former coach in Chicago, had a conversation with Hammon, and Vegas gave Chennedy a chance. That was just months ago, and now she's gone again.
Was it her complaining? Was there an issue behind the scenes? We don't know, but unfortunately, she's out again. Now, will someone pick her up? Now, here's another possibility that they did what I'm talking about and said, you know what, Chennedy is a baller.
When Indiana played the Aces on Sunday, people were saying Chennedy looked like she was half trying. Some said she didn't look fully healthy yet. But Hammon's statement after the Chicago game made it clear. Chennedy was cleared to play. The limited minutes weren't about her body. They were about what Hammon saw and what she decided wasn't working.
So what does it mean now that she has been waived? So I just typed it in Google to have the exact words, and Google says when a WNBA team waives a player, they are released from the active roster and placed on waivers for 48 hours. During this window, other teams can claim the player and their existing contract. If multiple teams place a claim, the team with the highest waiver priority is awarded the player. If the player is not claimed, they clear waivers and become an unrestricted free agent, free to sign with any team in the league.
Here's the Bleacher Report breakdown. The Aces announced the move Tuesday, right before the WNBA's deadline for guaranteeing contracts. Teams had until 5 p.m. Eastern to waive players on non-guaranteed deals before those contracts became fully locked in. Vegas used that window to cut Chennedy and bring in Pissott. And the Aces' official statement, "Thank you, Chennedy." That's the corporate version of "We're moving on," no tribute video, no long thank you post, just 2 words and a door closing.
League. And as far as waiver priority, that is usually determined by the worst record. They would get the first right to claim the waived player. So I don't know what the deal is. I don't know how many teams want to take a chance on Chennedy. Remember, Teresa Weatherspoon had a conversation with Becky Hammon, and that's what brought her in. But they let her go in the past, as good as she is, which, of course, there's a long history of Chennedy Carter issues. So we'll see. Does LA want her? Make a move? Does Chicago want to bring her back after 2024? Who knows? Does anybody want Chennedy?
So now Chennedy Carter is on waivers for 48 hours. Any team in the league can claim her and take on her existing contract. If multiple teams put in a claim, the team with the worst record gets priority. If nobody claims her, she clears waivers and becomes an unrestricted free agent, free to sign anywhere. But here's the question nobody wants to ask out loud. Does anybody actually want Chennedy Carter right now? She's talented. Nobody disputes that. She can score. She's a bucket when she's locked in. But she also has a long, well-documented history of locker room issues. Chicago let her go. Vegas just let her go. How many chances does someone get before teams decide the talent isn't worth the risk?
I don't know. It seems that, and I don't know if that's the case, I pray that she's well, but it seems that, at least in the past, she has trouble getting out of her own way. So lots to keep our eyes on.
There were people saying Indiana should bring her in, and the answer was always no. Not because she can't play, but because culture matters. The Fever are building something specific. They have a core that wants to play together. They have a coach who's emphasizing chemistry and accountability. Bringing in someone with Kennedy's track record would have been a gamble that didn't align with what they're trying to build. So they passed, and they were right to pass.
I also wish her well. I wish Justine Pissott absolutely well, and I would have wished her well if she stayed with the Fever. Obviously, that's not happening. I wish her well as she goes. But it's not certainly the end of the world.
Does LA want to make a move? They're rebuilding and could use scoring. Does Chicago want to bring her back after everything that went down in 2024? Probably not, but stranger things have happened. Does anyone else take the chance? It depends on how much they value short-term scoring versus long-term stability, because Chennedy Carter is a proven talent with a proven pattern, and at some point, the pattern becomes the story.
Once again, whoever's in a Fever jersey, let's go Fever. Looking forward to seeing Caitlin on the court. She said she felt well, and if everything went well in her practice today, she would be ready to ball against the Sparks. So I'll catch you next time, God willing.
So here's where we are. The Fever let Pissott go to Vegas, prioritizing culture and the players their core wants in the building. Vegas cut Chennedy Carter to make room for Pissott, and now Kennedy's looking for her third team in less than a year. And the internet is mad about the wrong part of the story. They're upset about a developmental player leaving Indiana while ignoring the fact that a former All-Star just got waived by the reigning champs because, in Becky Hammon's words, she didn't like what was working. The Fever are about to get Caitlin Clark back. She said if practice went well, she'd be ready to ball against the Sparks on Wednesday. That's the story. That's what matters, not a developmental player who might get spot minutes in Vegas. Not a veteran guard who's now on her third chance in 2 years. The Fever made their call. They kept the players their core wants. They kept the culture they're building. And they're about to get their franchise player back on the floor. The question isn't whether Indiana made a mistake. The question is whether Chennedy Carter gets another shot, and if she does, whether this time is any different. Because right now, the pattern says it won't be. And teams are watching. So what do you think? Does Chennedy Carter deserve another chance, or is this exactly what everyone should have expected? Drop a comment, hit the like button if you made it this far, subscribe if you want more breakdowns like this, and I'll catch you in the next one.